What's up, guys? It's Dan, Binder Boneyard, and today we're going to talk about the tool cart. A lot of you guys have tools that you like to use, tools that work. I wanted to show off what I use and what my guys use. This cart is what I would consider the community cart. I know everyone loves air quotes. This cart sits out in the open and it's kind of free range. You know, the guys have their own toolboxes and their own stuff, but sometimes you need an extra wrench, or you don't want to walk so far, or I have somebody in here helping that didn't bring tools or something like that. So this is kind of that cart. You'll notice that there's some holes in some of it because of guys lost stuff, broke things, whatever. And I'll tell you, the fastest way to lose or break a tool is to hire an employee, because they will ruin it for you faster than anything. It's just the risk you run. So yeah, but let's go over the cart of as far as what gets 99% of the work done. At least I used to when I was doing it. So air tool oil, gotta have that for your air tools. We do most everything is electric, Milwaukee impacts, but we still use air for a lot of the metalworking stuff. The grinders, sanders, DAs, that sort of stuff is still air powered. So gotta have the air tool oil. I've laid the cart out in such a way. This is just an old Rubbermaid cart, plastic cart, probably from the Home Depot. It works really well because it's plastic. That's one of the things I like about it. If you bump it into a truck or something, you're not going to cause any damage to the vehicle. It's open. You can see quickly what you have or don't have, what you place to throw stuff mid-project, and that's why you end up with random bits that you've got to do something. We'll get started. Quarter drive socket set in the front, kind of miscellaneous. You know, it was in order, but half the stuff got broken. Somebody broke the tangs off my holder, so it just lays there like that. You know, for the most part, when you're using quarter drive, it's going to be 3/8, 5/16, quarter, 11/32 for the ignition stuff. The 3/8 socket set is kind of the workhorse. That's the general go-to for most stuff. 3/8, you know, do a lot of that. 1/2 inch stuff, that's mostly impact sockets. Some of them are lost. Harbor Freight impact set. I bought this in 2005, 2006, I think, and I didn't expect it to last a week, and it actually went through all of my jobs as a industrial fabricator, because that was my career before this, was fabrication, heavy industry fab. So you know, most of these little sockets never got used. It was always the bigger ones, and then I have another set that's even bigger that you don't need when you're working on a Scout. Of course, wrench set. These are just your basic Craftsman. I don't have any really fancy tools. The only snap-on tool that I've ever bought new is the torque wrench, and it's important, and you know, that's why I have it. But this stuff, you don't have to have $1 million tools to do this. Craftsman, your basic Craftsman wrench set. This was your decent gear wrench set. Gear wrenches are super handy. I recommend them when your budget allows. Gear wrench, great to have, super handy, especially when you can't get a socket in there, a ratchet, whatever. Gear wrench, highly recommend. Some of the more specialty stuff, these wobbles, you know, the intake manifolds on the V8s have some really tight spaces and it's hard to get at, so wobbles are what I like. Can't go anywhere without the lady slipper, or whatever they call that. This is a Proto. Don't cheap out on your pry bars. Most of the stuff I bought at garage sales and swap meets, so got a deal on it, but it's a Proto, good brand from the old days. Don't skimp on this stuff, because you end up, you know, you're putting all your weight on it, you're really prying sometimes, and you don't want that to fail at the worst possible time. Some other handy stuff. This is a starter wrench, 5/8 on one side and 9/16 on the other. The international starters all use 5/8, so that's a good handy one to have. If you don't have access or can't afford that, you can take a regular cheap 5/8 wrench and cut it down, and you grind it around, grind the radius, and then it's good for getting at those starter bolts also on the international engines. Line wrenches, tubing wrenches, whatever they call them, they're handy in the sizes. I have some extras of the super common ones, like here's another regular 1/2-inch wrench. Internationals use a ton of those. Another good specialty wrench. This is a 9/16 that we use for all the exhaust work. The exhaust manifold, the flange, gasket and stuff is right up against the block. And so this one that's turned 90 degrees is perfect for getting in there and holding it while you tighten it up from the bottom, because getting a regular wrench in there is really tough. I took another Craftsman 1/2-inch wrench and I bent it, gave it a little more of a wow. This is great for the little U-bolts that hold the U-joints on. This thing has been a lifesaver, especially on Scout 2s, on the front yoke, front output of the transfer case. It's hard to get in there sometimes. This was super handy for that. Pointy punch. This does a lot of work. Chisel. This one doesn't get used as much. I do have a smaller one. It must be out on a job. So I recommend you have those. This guy right here is a hose cutter. Big blade in there. This was given to me a million years ago by my friend Terry. I'm not even sure what brand this is. It's made in America. I know it's hard to get blades for it, but whatever it is, for making nice straight cuts and hoses, this is what you want for sure. Of course, Allen wrench set. To take a Scout apart, you only need like 3 Allens, but you know, it's a set. I keep it on the cart. And then another Allen set that's socket driven. Doesn't get used as much, but it's nice to have that option if you do, you know, a lot of our restorations, we swap out some of the hard to get at hardware, because it's always Phillips head for some reason, or flat if you go back a few more years. We replace them with Allen head fasteners, so you know, pan head or whatever. So it's nice to have that. You know, in the socket set, I guess you had your basic, your plug, wrench, some other adapters to go from one to the other. They don't get used very much, but it's nice to have them when they pop up. Crescent wrench. It's always, you know, nice to have a big, heavy crescent wrench, because, you know, you might need a hammer or something to throw. So it's always nice to have that. And then I got the little guy, so that you can follow up your throw of this one with a smaller one. They're handy just for basic stuff. You're like doing our tie rods, putting those on. The jam nut's like 1.125". And I don't have that on the cart because up until a few years ago, I didn't even have a wrench set that big. So, you know, it's helpful to have. You know, you professional mechanics are definitely laughing at me, because like Steve, my main tech, he's got a big Snap-on box full of all kinds of Snap-on tools. I wasn't that smart, and you know, I built my tool sets off of garage sales and stuff people gave me, and my grandpa died and I got some of his tools. So, you know, like I've always just done the best I could with what I had. So this is kind of what this cart is. So of course, you know, if you got the socket sets, you got to have the ratchets. These are regular old Craftsman ratchets. This, you know, like this guy here, I found it, bought a Scout, and this was under the seat, brand new, still in the package. But so sometimes you get lucky, stuff like that. You know, extensions, it's handy to have some extensions. This is a distributor wrench. This is so that you can get down and loosen that hard to get at bolt. Super handy. Again, haven't had it until the last couple of years. Now that I've had it, I'm like, why didn't I buy this 100 years ago? And this one came from the swap meet. Again, you got to have a breaker bar. This is a 1/2-inch drive, Craftsman. This one's a little bit newer. You can always tell the newer ones because they have the warnings and stuff on them. This one, I think Steve broke his and I gave him mine, and then I picked this up at the swap meet. You know, of course, hammers. If you guys can see him, I've got this guy here. Is a 6-pound beater, rubber. Got to have a rubber hammer, doing sensitive stuff. And then of course the dead blows. They call them dead blows. This one's full of shot. Probably can't hear it with the heater running, but super handy. Definitely recommend. If you're only gonna have 2 hammers on your cart, you should have a 4-pound and dead blow. Those are very important. This guy here is a copper hammer. If you're doing something sensitive on gear train and you gotta whack it but you don't want to damage the gears, this came from actually another rig that I bought. It was in the trunk. And then yeah, the regular hammer, this guy here gets a lot of use. I do have a ball peen hammer as well for being delicate. Some of the customization I've done on the cart. Nut drivers here. These are super handy for hose clamps, things like that. Just drilled sizes. One thing I did was for each one of these holes, I made them slightly larger than the driver that they're for. That way, someone can't come along and put this driver in one of the other holes. It's always going to be in the right order, smallest to largest. The larger drivers don't get used too much, but it's still nice to have the whole array there. Screwdrivers, flat, Phillips, and they successively get smaller. I've got a couple of those because, you know, you go to use your big one and it's too big, whatever, and so you need the next one down. So it's nice to have a couple of options. I mean, other stuff, your channel locks. These are just good old Channel Lock brand channel locks. They're pretty old. You know, I've had to buy tools several times because when I was younger, I had toolboxes stolen out of the back of my pickup, and at the time, those were like all the tools I ever owned my whole life back there. And being dumb, you know, growing up in the country and not thinking about stuff, and go to town somewhere and sure enough some craphead will steal your toolbox. So you know, I used to have a full set of old SK ratchet and sockets and stuff that I had stolen from my dad, because, you know, and they were in my truck when then it got stolen, and I felt terrible. And then I tried to buy another set of SK sockets, and at the time they were really hard to find or whatever, and I couldn't get them. So I still haven't replaced his socket set, but he doesn't really need it. So because yeah, I didn't learn how to work on stuff from my old man. This all came from learning myself and breaking things and ruining stuff and just doing it and doing it again. So anyway, some of the other stuff, it's, you know, vice grips. It's always handy, especially if you're working on brake lines. You know, you got to get that nut to come loose out of the wheel cylinder. It's been there for 100 years. Vice grips, super handy. My other toolbox, I've got a whole collection, but the thing about toolboxes is that you rarely go to them. Like, this is the go-to. Very rarely do I crack open the big box for anything. This is it. This is all here. Something else, scrapers. Super handy to have scrapers to clean off your work. Wire brush. Want to have a wire brush to get after cleaning up stuff, you know. What I don't have here, normally I have a roll of paper towels that hangs off the side because that's also super handy to have. Yeah, this is pretty much it. Like, if you, this cart right here would do, well, what's not pictured, I guess, is the Milwaukee power tools. But this cart coupled with the Milwaukee tools would do 99.9% of everything you would need to do on your Scout or international truck travel all. Probably need, what's not here is electrical stuff. We have another cart for that. But yeah, this really is about it. So I would recommend you guys trying to do something in your garage or your home shop, whatever. Consider one of these carts. Like I said, I got this from, I don't know, abandoned house or something, and had to put casters on it. But yeah, plastic cart, tray, the basics. You really can get a lot done with it. Doesn't have to be fancy. Doesn't have to be nice. It should be good quality, like at least Craftsman. You know, that's kind of what I would consider bottom of the line in professional mechanics tools. But yeah, you know, this is it. If you're just young guy starting out, don't think that you need to have a Snap-on box with 90 drawers and, you know, $70,000 worth of debt just to work on a Scout, because you don't. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it was informative, and if you liked it, please like it. Please subscribe. Turn on that notification bell, because I've been putting out a lot of shorts, a lot of fun content. Hopefully you guys are following along. And I do appreciate it very much. So until next time, I'm Dan for Binder Boneyard.